Hang on. Sorry.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for everybody for taking time out of your evening on starting off the week from Monday. Today is October 20th, and it is 6 p.m. here at this location. Starting off with time limit policy and procedures. Anyone wishing to speak is asked to raise his or her hand, and when recognized by the chair, to address comments to the chair. Speakers are to keep their comments under 2 minutes. Public testimony taken on each agenda item. Please silence all your electronic devices. And when you're speaking, can you please turn on your video so that way we can see as you're speaking. And then the commission may take action on any agenda item as required by the state sunshine law. Specific issues not noted on the agenda cannot be voted on unless properly added to the agenda. Okay, and everybody here is signed in already. Are we going to do a roll call?
Yep.
Okay.
Bernal. Crab. Cross Crab. Do see you online. I'll come back to you. Jake Vedo. Elliot Pahinui.
Here.
Knight.
Here.
Nakamoto. Harris Nakamoto. Vareg.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Yonenaka. Here. The one for now, and then I'll double check. Cross Crab. Harris Nakamoto. They're online. We'll see you in a second.
Okay, great. Okay, we're going to move on. Of course, over the last few months, we did have an issue at our last board meeting where we didn't approve the July minutes and the summary video record. Can I get a motion to approve the July 1st, 2025 written summary for video record?
So move.
So,
Okay, do I have a second? Any changes? Okay, hearing no changes, will be approved as written. Okay, the second one is our last meeting, which we did have some video technicalities. It was an information only, that's why it's a memorandum for the record. That's for September 15, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Have a second?
sure.
Okay,
Second.
okay, and any changes? Any objections for approval? Okay, approved as written. Okay, starting off with new business, we've got a couple items here. The first one is the NCO, your proposal for some creative ideas for the complaint process review. And I'll turn that over to you guys to present the proposal.
Right. It's a one-page proposal. You all have it. I can summarize it. And I just want to say, we are putting this on the table now as part of a request from the commission in the last commission meeting, for us to give one more presentation on what we think the complaint process should be like. And our view has always been to make it as simple and as short as possible. We realize the challenges of extending the complaint process over months doesn't seem to do anyone any good. But I want to just say that this process that we have on the table right now is really based on citizen participation. And we all know the neighborhood board system is here for the citizens of Oahu. And we exist so that they can interact with their government, that they can speak with their government in terms of the decisions government makes. So our complaint process is based really on the issue of if the public is denied in any way to speak or or participate. That is really what we're after, the complaint. So we want to focus the complaint in that area. So everything is based on if the public has been denied an opportunity to participate in somehow, that is the basis of anybody's complaint, whether it was an individual that did it or a board or anything. So if we look at that process from there, you know, anybody can file a complaint by a member of the public against a board or board member for any incident that impeded the public's ability to provide input or participate in a neighborhood board meeting. So it's focusing on, not on personal issues with each other or something that somebody did or didn't do or the process, but it's about the public and their right to participate. And basically, you know, it follows very similar in terms of they file a complaint, they fill out a form that we have, they cite the complaint. And the deviation from our plan to what we have now is that at that point, the complaint is directed to the board that it is against, or the individual's board. And the board is the first one that takes, reviews it, and they can discuss and review it any way they want. But it is their decision if they want to forward that complaint to the commission. For instance, if the board says, we can't come to a decision on how we should handle this, just push it to the commission. At the same time, if the board says, we recommend or we believe this should be done, they can recommend that to the commission also. They can send it to the commission with a recommendation. And I think we all know most of the time what we're after is a resolution. It's not about penalizing anyone. It's about resolving the issue so that the process moves and the public is served again. So that is the intent. At the same time, while the board cannot or does not have the ability to suspend anyone, they can recommend it to the commission. And the commission is the one that has the final review and says, okay, we agree with you, we don't agree. At the same time, the commission can decide they have an alternate decision, and they can act on that. If they decide, you know, we're not going to suspend anyone, but we would like this to happen in your board meeting. So I think it's the first attempt to resolve the issue, which is really what we're after. We're after resolving any complaint. The first shot at it is with the board, and after that, the board makes a recommendation if they want to the commission. And the commission at that point decides, okay, we agree with you, we disagree with you, whatever the decision is. But at that point, the commission will either validate or come up with a different perspective on it. And that follows pretty similar in the pattern that, you know, if the parties involved do not agree, they can file an appeal. But again, the appeal also is based on new information. I don't see the justification in appealing something when there's nothing new that's happened, because everybody has made their decision, has heard it. So, it really is based on there's new information. Please consider this. So, again, it's pretty straightforward. We think most of this can be done within 30 days, depending on when the board meetings happen, when the commission meetings happen. And one of the complaints I know we've had about the complaint process is that it does take forever. I mean, you know, wait 30 days and then wait another 30 days and then another 45 days and on and on. It is a problem. So our attempt to make it shorter, get to the point, try and resolve it. And if it can't be resolved at the board level, then it comes to the commission. With that,
I think just one last point of clarification. So this is just a layout of like what the concept is.
yeah,
But it's more about if the commission would even like entertain the process. If that's the case, then legal language can be written up for the process that can then be reexamined, and scrutinized by the commission as needed. But the layout portion of it as a first step is just, is this even something that, is amendable in the first place?
yeah, it's not written from the legalese standpoint. At this point, if this moves forward, then we would probably refine it a little bit more, put the proper steps in it, and then turn it over to Corp Counsel to have them line it up with the numbering in the plan.
So one question I have before I ask the commissioners, how do we track this? Because you're leaving it with the public individual or board member that files a complaint. Who does that go to start the tracking process?
Well, in order to file a complaint, you have to fill out the complaint form.
Does
So
that
So that comes to us.
Okay, you start the tracking.
So then we
process.
track it. From there, we'll make copies and we have to make sure that the people who the complaint was filed against gets notified. And then we have to notify the board.
So now I got communication with you and the chair. to
Right.
Follow up, make sure they're
Right,
doing timely action.
right. Yeah.
Okay. With that.
So do you see this as a subset of the complaint process? I mean, because this is only fits like a small portion of the complaints overall. Because a lot of the complaints are board members against board members. A lot of the times, the complaints are like decorum issues. And, you talk about access or participation is your thought process. It actually is just any complaint that the public might have against the board? Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and thanks for picking that up, Mr. Attorney.
Well, Tom helped.
But it does focus it on, the basis of a complaint has to be how the public was disenfranchised in some way. So the personal thing between two board members, if the public is not involved, that doesn't qualify here.
Okay, so, I mean, is your proposal that this would be the entire complaint procedure or?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
So then what happens to those other complaints that wouldn't fit that description?
Then they have to take it up within the board.
Okay, any other commissioners have anything? And before we get started, two people came in. Can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, Larry, Kathleen here.
Okay, go ahead, Kathleen. I see a lot of
Yeah,
hands
thank
up there.
Yeah,
You're in
not
the
a
middle.
problem. So a couple questions come to mind. Yes, I picked up that this was strictly for the public. I understand that because to ask people from my community to truck all the way downtown is a big ask. Even though you have online links and stuff like that. So I think allowing more public input is good, especially if the complaint comes from the community. However, I still have some questions about, since the bulk of the complaints going back as far as I can remember, back to when Tom Heinrich was commissioner, executive secretary, they were board against board members. So I do think it is important to have a process for that because they've gotten ugly. We've seen how ugly some of these complaints have gotten. And I'm not sure that a board after a while gets capable because they get stuck in their position. You have this faction, that faction, and I'm not so sure that that's healthy for the board. So I would respectfully ask that we look at a process for boards. I think it's great separating. I think that's actually smart. But I am concerned that we're basically leaving the bulk of them to a chair to handle with their board members. Some chairs are capable of dealing with it, but there are a lot of chairs that probably would be uncomfortable or not as adept at dealing with these kinds of issues. And putting them in that position, I'm not sure. I mean, it is their job to do it, and they could try. The first pass could be having the chair deal with it and try to do it. But then what happens if it's a deadlock? And again, I remember some very ugly situations back in the day. Thank you, Steve. That concerns me that we're putting the bulk of the problem back onto the board without giving them really strong recourse. But I do like what you've set up for the public because I think the board should be, if there's an issue between a public member and the board, I think that's something the board can handle. I deal with crazy people at my board all the time. And, we talk it out, we get it taken care of, we shake hands and we all move on and life is beautiful. So I think that's one thing that the board can do. Thank you.
Yeah, Kathleen, I totally agree with you on the comments that you made. We just need to figure out how we can make this work. We still got three other hands up. Steve?
Yeah, I had a question. Is that document up on the website? I do not see it with the
Yeah,
agenda.
I actually sent it out to the people that normally attend these meetings. You were on there.
And the link is on the agenda. It's on the agenda.
And the link's on the agenda for the Google Drive. So when you're looking for it,
I'm in the
That's-
Google Drive. I don't see any document in there. It should be
you
with the
check your
agenda.
email.
committees.
Okay.
There's one of them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Stephen, yeah, if you can, if you're in the commission's Google Drive, you gotta click on the folder that says committees and then the neighborhood plan committee in 2025. And then you'll see this month's folder. And there's, I believe, 4 documents because there was the comparison chart. And then previous information from prior committee meetings that were also reposted into there.
Great, thank you. I have a question for Lloyd.
Sure.
Lloyd, I believe we finished up the complaint process already. So was this something new you came up with, or because the commission makes the policies? Is this something you're kind of throwing in after the fact, or what's your intent on this?
No, I'm responding to the commission's request at the last meeting where they asked me to come up with our perspective on the complaint process. It was
Okay.
brought up and the commission said, okay, go ahead and give it another shot. And that's what we did. That's what I did. So it is at the request of the commission.
Thank you.
Okay, Kevin.
Chair, thank you. I appreciate the chance to review the document. I think that addressing if this proposal would supplant the entirety of our edited section 2.18 or not has been clarified, but still, I understand this is a preliminary document, but there are a lot of concerns so far. I think the first thing I'd ask is, has what's been proposed, again, been gamed out in some actual issues that have happened on actual boards? Because the committee may understand that a lot of times if something happens during a meeting, it's already been put to an appeal during the meeting. Maybe a point of order was called, maybe even an objection of a chair's ruling was appealed to the body itself. And so it seems like this process may be repeating that at a different meeting down the road, but the same people voted, the same people had the information at the time. So I'm not sure where the impasse will come. Or be resolved rather. Sometimes the complaints are filed because maybe it's against a chair for failure to either actually or not being perceived as following the neighborhood plan. And the way this is written, if the proposal here is about whether or not an individual was provided an opportunity to provide input or participate in the neighborhood board meeting, again, just a small subset of the actual complaints that might occur. Concerns also abound about the language here about testimony being provided. How is evidence going to be vetted? Is there exchange of evidence on when this is brought to the same or the impacted board itself? Lots of questions. I know this is preliminary, but I want to say good effort. I hope something can come positive of this. I'd just like to know how this is going to fit and if it's been or can be better vetted. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Of course, as Kathleen said, there's so many different case scenarios. Some of those, the board and the chair are not going to be able to handle. They're going to have to punt it over to the commission to be able to work the situation. Greg, what do you got?
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.
And okay. Yeah, I agree with the previous comments by all of the people who've spoken so far. I would like to say it's clear to me, I think it's probably clear to others, that the intent of this is to take the complaint process, which was never, at least in the time I was on the board, the Waikiki Neighborhood Board, was never administered properly or fairly. It's meant to take it and throw it over to the boards themselves and to provide a venue, which is not the proper venue because but a venue to adjudicate these complaints at public meetings. And it's not the proper venue because the venues are the neighborhood board meetings, and these are meant for the public to participate in conversations about issues regarding their neighborhoods, their communities, not to address complaints like this. This is, to me, it's ludicrous. I'll use that word. I think it's just showing me further why, and this is my personal opinion, why the executive secretary is not qualified for this position. He doesn't seem to understand really what's there. The fact that he hasn't administered this procedure, this process, unfair allegations and complaints were allowed to go forward with no substance, which you could easily see in a video record, and it was used improperly by the NCO, by the executive secretary, instead of adjudicating them. I'll end with this. I just, would say again that coming in at the 11th hour with something like this and having it be even proposed to replace the complaints process is the most ridiculous thing I could ever, see. And it just shows me how little the NCO regards the complaints process. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Who else we got? Tom, please.
Thank you, Chair. The first is I would remind all participants not to make derogatory statements and make them personal, but to focus on the process at hand. Secondly, I never perceive that there is a finish line, if you will, as a final finish line. And so the characterization of this as 11th hour, that kind of stuff, I think is misplaced. The key to me, I think, is as we have spoken in recent neighborhood plan committee meetings, is the matter of promptness, because we kept running into how long is this going to take, et cetera. And as well, how can we avoid the contested case hearing process as the first step, which in essence is kind of where we are with the current neighborhood plan, because it largely mirrors the full contested case process. You repeat it that way. And as well, I think one of the things that is represented here is how can we include the neighborhood boards when appropriate in evaluating their own conduct in that sense. The key to me, I think, in one sense, because it's got my mind going in some other ways looking at this tonight, is first, when I spoke with a couple members of the committee on right before the meeting started, and that is the focus, and as Lloyd has said here, is right at the top that this is for any incident which impedes the public's ability to provide input or participate in the neighborhood board meeting. That to me is classic sunshine law, public participation element. But my main additional point here is I see that then as one bucket, if you will, for lack of good vocabulary, and there being a second bucket for those alleged violations of the neighborhood plan, which may be completely distinct from something that impedes public participation. And there are too many good examples of what they may be. But that being said, the other idea that I have, well, there are two ideas. The first is to consider, in fact, and we would have to double check with Corp Counsel on this, but bottom line is consider, in fact, attempting something like this for a particular period of time as a pilot program. In other words, let's try it out. Let's kick some tires and see whether this might in fact work or whatever for the limitation that the executive secretary has identified here, public input, if you will. But the second is, and I would not be happy, but I will be interested in taking a whack, if you will, at reducing the full process that we currently have to a mirror, if that's the right word, of the proposal from the executive secretary that takes care of those other things that are not just public input. So I think there's a different opportunity here, and especially one that is intended to be quicker in everybody's evaluation, and as well getting some input as to what would be a recommendation for resolution. Because that especially is something that has been totally, one of several things that has been totally absent from the nature of the neighborhood commission's process so far. But it's very interesting to me, and it does address some of the concerns I expressed last time, and that is we really started, I think, with some good ideas or attempts to speed things along, and then we got right back into the full process. And it's kind of like, How do we check some other opportunity here? And I appreciate the commission's asking the executive secretary to give us something to springboard off of. Again, this is not the wordsmithing, but to give some different opportunity here. I think it's been, to me, it's been very valuable. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, now that we've talked about this, if I could express my upshot of the whole thing. We had a similar type of proposal where we sent back to the board, and that's kind of where we started as a committee about a year ago. And we went methodically through the process and identified areas that we wanted, that we spent a lot of time going through the details. This proposal is fine. I have no problem, but what I would suggest is incorporate it into our larger proposal that we've vetted and make it an option, just like another option. And I know people said it was complicated. Well, the nice thing about it is like having choices. You don't talk about when you buy something, you don't want all these choices. You want a choice. And it gives the option of how to deal with it. And this would be an optional path that could be chosen if the circumstances are right. But I think the proposal that we have on the table, the proposal the committee came up with is a good proposal. It may be needed to be tweaked, that's fine, but that's my opinion. Anyway, thank you, Chair.
Any other comments? Angie?
I just wanted to echo the sentiment that I do have concern if the complaint is against the chair of a board, if that complaint against the chair is being introduced by the chair at the next neighborhood board meeting. That does seem very much a conflict of interest. And it also seems like retaliation could be something that could be there, which would then cause another complaint because that would impede the public's participation as well. And it, as discussed, could be a cascade of effects. So I do have concern for certain, I don't think it's infighting, but certain complaints that they would be left on their own without a third party present. That is concerning, especially because we want the board to be able to hear the community's concerns. And if they are just basically inviting an infight, there would be no concerns heard.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and there's going to be different type of case scenarios. Of course, I think, as I really like Tom's idea about it, starting a pilot program just to try it out. Where you as the NCO can put down different kind of case scenarios, but the difficult ones will be complaints against the chair because for the chair to be able to facilitate a meeting on an issue that's against that individual.
Yeah.
That's very hard to do. That's one of those things where that one automatically goes to the commission. We just got to look at different type of scenarios. What's interesting is this is good creativity. And I think we had already talked about this, and I really liked what you guys proposed when we started looking at the 8-pager. We talked about how we're going to get the neighborhood boards more engaged and try to mitigate these issues early in the game, especially when there are complaints, because some of them can be handled at board level, and there are some they're going to have to go to the commission. So I really think that this can be integrated into the one that we've already spent a lot of time on, that I think we still need, because you're going to have those tough situations that you're going to have to take care of. And Tom, I appreciate you saying that you would look at trying to bring these together to make it fit. Any other comments on your side there?
Yeah, it just, my intention was not to have two different paths. I didn't want to make the complaint process even harder or more difficult. So I think having both has some inherent challenges. I would hate to see two different paths for a complaint and a person goes here and then doesn't get what they want, so they go here.
Well, I think those two paths are at the board level. Once
Yeah.
it gets to the commission,
And-
it's already been identified.
And my intent from the very beginning with the previous proposal was to have the boards more engaged in trying to resolve some of their own issues. Whether it's, I'm not getting enough time or got cut off when I shouldn't have gotten cut off, or you know, I didn't get information, whatever it is. I think it's important that, from my perspective, that the boards try to resolve as much as they can at the board level. It just makes for a better end result. So that was my end of this. But certainly is not intended to make the process more complicated, because we all agree that it should be not complicated. It should be as quick as possible. It's pretty straightforward. Tom, the challenge is yours if you think you can integrate it into the, into the
I
current.
can do it too.
Okay, Kathleen, I'm gonna circle back to you. You got your hand back up again?
Well, actually, could you go to Cross first, because he's had his hand up and
Oh,
he's not
I'm
yet
sorry,
spoken.
sorry.
Thank you. Come back
Cross,
to me
you're up.
afterwards.
Thank you. I just want to clarify with this new process, is the complaint process still like not anonymous at all?
No,
No.
Okay,
Never.
perfect. Yeah, it was never anonymous, but I just wanted to clarify because I feel like that was another issue that has come up too. I don't know if this was discussed in earlier processes. Sorry, this is also my first meeting with you folks, but um I feel like people, because it's not an anonymous process, people don't tend to actually want to complain due to retaliation. I'm not sure how to fully address that as well, but I just wanted to bring that up. It because I know you folks, some of you folks were a part of or were present in a complaint process where I was the complainant, and people were afraid to complain, and I wasn't afraid to complain, but people were just didn't want to put their names out in the public to complain. So I feel like that's another barrier sometimes in the complaint process. Thank you.
yeah, Cross, I fully understand what you're saying, but I gotta tell you, it's a responsibility of the chair to make sure that the community knows that there has to be instilled trust into the board. You know, whether it's the chair or whether it's other board members, they've got to have trust to be able to confide in one of the board members for assistance. If they're really worried about a very sensitive situation, they can always, I would say, Lloyd, anybody could come to you directly, right? With a phone call or whatever and say, hey, I'm concerned because I have a very sensitive situation that could be reprimands or somebody to go against somebody of some case. But the neighborhood board chairs really got to establish, you know, that relationship with the public and its credibility. And of course, it's the conduct of the boards and how they act and how they respect is the other thing. So we hear you loud and clear on that. Steve.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay. Back to me, Larry. Back to me.
Sorry. Kathleen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry, Steve. A couple of things. Greg put in the chat, the neighborhood board meetings are not the place to discuss complaints. They are meant for the public to hear about their community issues and voice opinions. And good comment. However, I respectfully say, and I go to enough neighborhood board meetings, that one complaint I hear is people don't go to neighborhood board meetings because they feel the board doesn't get anything done, or they feel that the board isn't listening. And if you have people that come and disrespect the board and disrespect the community, and the board takes it up and they deal with it, that sends a strong signal to people who want to be disruptive. And there are people in various communities that want to be disruptive because they have their own agenda. It sends a strong signal that says, well, we're not going to accept this. This is not right. So that's another way you need to look at that, I believe, is that there is that opportunity to show your community you're not going to put up with bullies, essentially. Because a lot of times these people are just being bullies. I had to deal with one last year in my board meeting, and I dealt with it, and everybody was like, you go, girl, you know, because I wouldn't put up with it. I just want to make a suggestion. I think this great conversation, lots of good input from everybody. This is a knotty issue, and we're not going to solve it tonight. I don't think. I know poor Patrick, you've been working on this for so long. I feel sorry. You have my deepest sympathy. But I wonder if, give us some time to think about this, because I kind of stuck right now. I love the creativity. I love the conversation, but I'm also a little stuck in that we really do have two tracks here. You have the community complaints, you got board complaints, and Angie's right. You get against the chair, that's a whole nother animal, and that's got to be handled very separately and differently because the chair makes the agenda. The chair doesn't have to put it on the agenda if they don't want. And even though we are allowed to put something on the agenda at 2/3 vote, if it's a big enough issue and enough people in the community are upset about it, that doesn't fly, as we know. And I personally am not fond of that because too many times people try to put stuff on the agenda, you know, and for their own personal gain and reasons. So I'm wondering if we should finish up this discussion tonight, defer this to a future meeting, move on to some other issues that we need to address, and then come back after we've had some time again. I don't see or feel the need to rush this through. I think sometimes rushing things isn't good. If something is important enough, we should take and give it the time it deserves to be heard and to be explored. And again, everybody's coming up with some really good suggestions. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Steve,
Yes?
go ahead. Your hand's up. Okay,
Oh,
if,
Larry, are you addressing it to me? I'm sorry, it's hard for me to hear you.
Pam, your hand's up.
Yeah, just a comment. Dylan, I did find the doc. Thank you very much for this. I did go through the document, and I'm just concerned that, as Kathleen had mentioned, there's some people that are strong-armed on some of the boards. And if we say that we're going to put complaints on the board agenda, in some boards, that's all they're going to hear. Is complaint after complaint after complaint, and then cross complaints, and then what Cross had mentioned as far as retaliation. I'm concerned that this would open up a can of worms, and once you open it up, it's going to get worse. I'd be very careful about something like this because it can, especially with some of the boards that I've gone out and physically visited to help defuse some issues, and everybody's is right in their own eyes, but putting out complaints in front of the public to see, and then I can just see people going at each other on Olelo and complaining, and I'd just be concerned that, as Kathleen said, we should take this with a grain of salt and perhaps review it at another time, but think of the sensitivity of the boards. These guys live with each other. They're right there, they know each other. And I'd hate to see, because the opening statement that once again was stated about things that would impede the public from interfacing, this may be one of the things that would impede it because we're taking up the board time with complaints, not board business, so to speak. Thank you.
Okay, Steve, I never said take anything with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
Yeah, and one thing to mention here, as we had
Great.
gone through this process, was there was no intent to put this out in public while they're bickering back and forth. The plan was that there would be a separate meeting, a mediation meeting with the commissioner to sit in and listen to discussion as it goes on to help facilitate and bring this to resolution. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick.
Well, you can only have 2 board members at that meeting, you have to remember, or else you get into sunshine law issues, like you have to advertise, it has to be open to the public. So you can't do this process where it's the board and not have it allow the public to participate or know about it or anything like that. So, yeah.
Kevin, before we go
Great.
to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, thank you for the
Yeah,
chance to be a second time speaker. In thinking about the discussion tonight, I've looked again at the proposal, and I think that nearly everything, if not everything, that's that issue here, namely about the public's ability to provide input, would that not be resolved with better training for board members, board chairs, officers? I mean, what's the actual tort here if someone feels they were not able to provide input? Well, those rules are there in the neighborhood plan and in sunshine law, and it's the impetus of the board members to know what and how to execute those rules. If someone feels aggrieved, to whom are they appealing? Are they saying, hey, neighborhood board, you did not permit me to do this because you did not follow the rules? So the complaint that has come from the public then into the board and against either the entire board or the portion of the board that voted not to permit the discussion, or all of the board if it was a unanimous denial of the presumed ability not to provide input. I'm being very careful because the language, it says impede the public's ability, because we know there's differentiation of board members to provide input at certain portions of the meeting and members of the public to provide input. So again, I think better training would be great, and the issues of apparent conflicts of other parts of the neighborhood plan are going to be a separate track. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you.
Question.
Go ahead, Angie.
Forgive me because I have not been part of the past year, 2 years of this, because I know you guys have been working on this. For a while, does the NCO have like data of what the average like complaints are? Like of how many are board member to board member, board against chair, policy? Is that something you guys have?
I mean, we could go through and pull the data, but if I'm just off the top of my head, I would say about 90-ish% of the complaints are between board member to board member, which may include the chair at times, but just generally speaking, between board members. It's a lot less common that we get public complaints, but I think a lot of that is more, not that there couldn't or shouldn't be public complaints, but more that's just relative to the amount of participation that we get at the meetings. The board members are typically there, so they're going to be the ones experiencing most of what happens at the meeting and therefore have the most complaints.
Oh, no, I was just curious because I didn't know, like we've talked about there's different types and different streams of complaints. I just didn't know contextually of how big of the bucket, for lack of a better word, is that we're talking about right now with having it discussed openly at the board as opposed to a separate meeting. So that does help. So thank you.
Patrick?
Well, I would say currently there aren't different types of complaints. We have one complaint process. And typically, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong, typically if you get a member of the public making a complaint, almost all the time it's some decorum related issue. It's not an access related issue.
Just other information, I'd say if we're basing it off of last year, most of the complaints, I think probably out of the 33 neighborhood boards, most of the complaints probably were contained within maybe 3 or 4 boards. The other boards had 0 complaints. And it looks like we're probably on track with that for this year as well.
This year is July to June.
Just basing on January to December.
Okay, calendar.
Okay. Any more comments on our first action business for neighborhood commission proposal? Tom?
Just one quick summary, which rolls into a different comment when you get to the next item here. And that is an alternative, if you will, is really setting up the NCO as the hub in a different way than we think of it at this point. One is as, in essence, the location of the hotline. Okay, I've got a complaint about whatever, misuse the word complaint, but the whole point is I got this inquiry or whatever, somebody would call into the NCO in order to register that or whatever. I'm not even talking about formal paperwork necessarily in that regard. But the NCO evaluates that and sees where to go. The second, of course, is a formal complaint, which by, form and all that stuff comes through the NCO. The NCO in whatever way, gets put in the position of wearing at least 2 hats, whatever. So there's some real potential friction points there. But trying to sort, if you will, whether this is access, whether this is something else, what is the best way to proceed on this or whatever, It seems to me that the only appropriate intake location is the NCO. And then there are other issues after that that I won't get into, but at least the initial portal is the NCO. Okay, so that just starts other concerns. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Chair, there's someone over there from the
Yeah.
public.
okay, yes,
Hi.
please identify yourself.
Where?
Yeah.
My name is Robert Cullen.
Yep.
Community member. I'm Evelyn Cullen, NV 15 Vice Chair, new to this entire process. I filed a formal complaint. Not only did I file a formal complaint, but I'm also looking and I'm offering some sort of resolution or solution. Not to bring anyone down from where they're at, but actually to work within our board to bring us up as a strong board in and of itself. There was never any intent to be negative towards my chairperson. It's just that I would like to have some sort of standards of practice that we all follow. It can be from informing board members about what do you have that maybe we can introduce on the agenda. There was never anything like that ever offered to us. I think I've been on the board for maybe 5 years.
What
I'm
board you
still
with?
a baby.
15.
15.
Which one is that?
Lee Palama.
Oh, okay, I know your chair very well.
So, I had recently filed a complaint. So this kind of walking into this, my very first time, it was, almost like, is this about me? But then I hear it's a process that's been in the works for a long, long while. So it's good for me to hear this. But again, as someone that comes in with a formal complaint, I also come in with solutions because that's my entire platform. We're working together as a community, volunteer community board to find what's best fit for our entire community. It's never a unilateral decision, not even from my part. And I hope that we all embrace it as board members to move forward together. We're helping each other to move forward together. And that's where I'm coming from. So within my complaint, I had mentioned specifics within the plan, sunshine law, as well as Robert's rule. So, but again, I'm always about offering solutions where it's inclusive and never to be held at our board meeting. Because I think that's something we have to kind of work on because we have to address our community needs, not our personal or whatever, we don't get along or whatnot. But to me, that could have all been resolved if we were included, because we aren't included. Very much so, we're not included. It's always unilateral decision, although it may appear as though it is, but I always come in not knowing what's going on.
Okay, so noted, and a question I have you ever called the NCO to ask for some advice on some of the issues that you had?
Well, I've only really experienced that since the beginning of.
We've exchanged emails.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll do after.
It's always like do what's best for our board.
Right.
Never take anybody down. That's not what I'm about.
Yeah, well, what we all want is a good cohesive board, team
Yeah.
playership, and you should be spending your meetings, either complaining of individuals with the way you're operating and all that, and your chair is supposed to be facilitating that.
Never happened.
So, but if you do have issues and stuff like that, you call the NCO and hopefully your chair is involved with that because the chair should be taking care of all that. And if the chair needs help, assistance anyway, we have collaboration with other board chairs that can help out too with experience. Because I've helped out a lot in the past. But thank you for bringing that up. And also we have our commission meetings. Next week is our commission meeting. And that's a really appropriate time to bring up stuff like that.
I'm really new to this, so I'm here.
Yeah, so today we're talking about the neighborhood plan and the revisions to the complaint process. And that's issued, of course, you have complaints, so it's good for you to hear what we're trying to do to set up your destiny. So, Patrick, any last minute comments before we move on?
Yeah, it's just important to know, so we will have our full commission meeting next week.
I got that on my calendar.
But we really can't talk about the specifics of your complaint. Like, if you have overall thoughts, we'd love to hear them. But yeah, just, we can't do that because the party, no. Okay, just so you're clear. But, we would love to hear from, your thoughts and any suggestions or, even criticisms of the process. Let us know and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no other comments on item A, the NCO's proposal, this is all great discussions because we all have one common goal. We want to improve this process, keep it short, sweet, simple. So the second thing I got is originally, last meeting, I was asked by Patrick to maybe put together a comparison, but I think it's best just for you to go through this thing with everybody. And you can talk about what was changed. But the thing is, though, as we go through it, to see if everybody understands it. Because if everybody has a major issue, says, hey, I still don't understand this one paragraph, we can stop at that point. Do you agree with that?
Yep, okay, I wasn't prepared, but yeah, I should.
Well, I got you prepared right here.
Yeah, thank you.
It's in 14, it's in 14 font.
I know, thank you for us that are visually challenged as we get older. Okay, well, I can just quickly review, the first part, we start with 2-18-101, the complaints. And that just talks about who can file a complaint. The current procedure is there's a separate 101 and a separate 102. And they both allow complaints, but 101, I think, is only if the commission or the executive secretary, correct me if I'm wrong, make the complaints. And then the second one deals with if it's a complaint made by a member of the public, a member of another board member, that type of thing. So they both are very, very similar, but for some reason, they're two separate provisions. But anyway, so we didn't do that. We have one sort of track that starts the same, and it just talks about who may file. And the big change that we had here is they have to file within 10 business days. Currently, it's 45 days now. That's not 45 business days, but so we wanted to shorten up the time they had to file. The big difference is, and this is this very significant change, is rather than have that process where every complaint is reviewed by the full commission, and then the full commission decides whether, that's the review portion. Then the full commission can decide whether to have a hearing. And that you have to kind of separate out those two aspects of it. So here, what happens is you have the executive secretary and the commission chair, or, a representative from the commission. They can make the determination of how to handle the complaint. And there are a number of different options, as you can see listed in C, subsection C. And that can be to go to a third party sort of process. We talked about like having a meeting of maybe the chair, and if it's involving the chair, a neutral third party, the chair, and then the complainant. So, and that's just an example. In fact, what I'm envisioning is with this proposal from the commission is we could integrate this and make it a seventh, an option. Now, I know a lot of people says it's getting really complicated, but the way I see it is it gives the commission, or it gives the process more options to deal with it, because some of these can be dealt with a lot more easily. And sometimes it is appropriate to send it back to the board, and sometimes it's not. And that's why we have this. That's why there are a number of options here. And I won't go through every one because we could be here all night talking about it. But so when you decide, or when those parties, the executive secretary and the commission chair, make a decision, each time it goes to another provision in here of how to deal with it. And it just talks about how the complaint will be processed. I don't know if you want me to, it's probably a little lengthy to go into every single one. But, there's just a lot of details about the mailings. We changed a little bit about the mailings, everything in the current process by certified mail. What we've done is we only take what's required by law has to be certified mail, and everything else can be email if the person opts for that, or regular mail. And that, since we get a lot of complaints that might not be considered really substantive, that kind of saves money for the NCO, so government efficiency. And we just thought that was appropriate. So if you head down to item 102, or to section 102, that's the sunshine law complaint. And that was just added to say that a party, and it's more of informative. It allows, it informs the complainant that they can also file, in addition or instead of, a complaint to OIP. And if they do, we just ask that they notify the NCO. And it's just so that we know, the commission and the NCO know what OIP says, because OIP is the ultimate arbitrator when it comes to sunshine law. It's not technically ultimate. You could go to court, but they're more authoritative than we are. Let's put it that way. So it just allows us to know, and so we just ask. And then section 103 is the hearings provision, and there's sort of two ways we can handle that. We can have the hearing for the commission, or we can appoint a hearings officer. We haven't done that recently, as long as I've been on the commission, but that's been done in the past, where the hearings officer actually goes out and gathers the evidence and hears from the parties, and then submits a report back to the full commission. Currently, what we've tended to do is we have the hearing from the full commission, and that is, we have all these procedures where you submit testimony, any evidence, that sort of thing. And then we hear people out, and all the details are in here. And then the commission has like 45 days to render a decision. Let's see, and then obviously under sanctions, there are a lot of limitations of what the board can do. I mean, people kind of complain about, the board, the commission, what the commission can do. The commission isn't doing enough. Well, we can only essentially sanction board members. We can't sanction a member of the public. So we can only sanction board members or an entire board. And that really entails, currently under the current one, I think we can only suspend a member for 2 months, or 2 meetings, I believe, if I recall correctly. Or we can suspend the whole board, that type of thing. So there are just a number of sanctions that we can impose. But basically, it just involves that. It can be a reprimand. It can be a request for more training. But essentially, the ultimate punishment may be like for a board, actually, we can depose the board chair. But that's essentially the sanctions provision. And then the last provision just kind of details how you can appeal it to a higher level, and that would essentially be circuit court. So I wasn't really prepared to make a good summary, so I don't know if that was a great summary, but that's a basic overview. There's a lot of details in there. As they always say, the devil's in the details. And, we have spent a lot of time over the last year going through all those little details about how much time do we want to allow for each aspect of the procedure. What types of, rights do we give to a complainant? What type of rights do we give to the respondent? And all those, I think, were really carefully looked at in their individual capacity. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. If you want to review, what I would suggest is everybody review this. And if you have questions about particular procedures, or have issues, that this is the time to let us know. But that's really about it. I'm sorry.
What, Dylan?
Not a question, but I am aware, and it's just something I was made aware of, but there is a neighborhood board, can't think of which one off the top of my head. I just loosely saw this today, but, they are interested, I don't know if they've adopted it yet or they're intending to, but passing a resolution, relating to third absences, which also require certified mail. And their thought process is basically, we should no longer be doing certified mail. And so they do intend, from what I understand, to bring that to the commission ultimately. But stemming from that conversation, the point being is that I know that in the past we've talked about, well, we just can't get certified mail, get rid of it. But I've never actually seen the documentation saying you must have certified mail. So if someone has that documentation or can provide that, then I think that would be nice to have, I guess.
Let's get Tom. Tom?
Quick comment is this just mirrors so many other parts of things that have been relied on as the source material.
And that's okay, but if we have.
It's just legacy language at this point, which we can address.
Well, so if it's a legacy, if there is no documentation. That's kind of the point.
I have the documentation. It's
Okay.
from, it's from HRS 92. And that's why when we were going through it, I said, based upon my understanding.
But do you have what, like,
Yes.
can you get that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I don't have, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but yes, I have that documentation and I'll be happy to provide that. I can throw it up on the, our shared drive if everybody wants to take a look. It's fine.
Go ahead, Tom.
But to follow up on that, absolutely correct. The basis for this was the contested case hearing process, et cetera, in chapters 91 and 92 HRS. The difficulty or challenge today is, okay, what else might we do in relying on email or doing other things? The concern has always been, even if you wanted to only rely on first-class mail, which in many cases is more likely to reach the person because they may not want to sign for something certified or all those things. But the key then is, how do you make the change in this process to, in fact, say limit things to email and then state what the alternatives are for those that don't have it, as compared to, again, rely almost exclusively on what was the basis for this, which is chapter 91.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely prefer that we had like a red receipt email process or something more, but I just know that this is something that's gonna be in the pipeline anyway, that's a request, so. I think they would probably also like to know the justification for why certified mail needs to come through, so it'd just be good to have that.
Well, and again, drawing a distinction between certified mail and return receipt requested, which is the signature.
Well, that's that's certified mail.
No, it's an additional fee at the post office.
Oh, well, I mean,
So
for us,
that's
it's just,
something for us.
what they're trying to avoid is the green slip one that costs $11.
Because they're at work. I've never seen it.
Yeah, and one of the
They
big
don't
issues,
get it.
and one of the big issues is, and Greg Vasakian brought that up previously, you're gonna have case scenarios where a board member had to leave on emergency leave. And if he's the one that's getting that letter, he's not gonna see it.
That happens all the time. We just had another one where someone said that I work every day, I don't get
Yeah.
it, so that's $11 that just bounces in the ether.
And of course, to meet our timelines in the complaint process, that individual may not be back for 30 days. So we need to have that as an option. Thing is, that individual is accountable, that they need to call the NCO and say, hey, I'm in an emergency situation, I won't be back for 30 days, I'm requesting to be delayed.
And the problem is that they don't even know.
Are they aware that they should be expecting the certified mail?
Yeah, they don't even know they're going to get a certified. When we know.
Once they get the text and the email. I
Well,
don't know.
but that's assuming we go out of our way to call, text,
Yeah.
email, whatever. If the process just says send someone a certified letter, then.
Because that sounds like it would be sent
Is there-
certified mail and a receipt email.
Is there an info to the chair at all? Because I'm gonna tell you, I know all my board members, if anybody goes on travel, they let me know, it's a courtesy. So I know that when I'm collaborating with them on things, assigning them to do things, I know who's there and who's not there.
Respectfully, that's not common across. all
I mean, I think we're talking about different things.
No, but I'm just talking about that's a backup
So the
process.
Well, we're just-
volunteers need to tell us when they're leaving on vacation.
I am definitely gonna let you guys know that if I'm supposed to be here for a neighborhood plan committee,
Yeah, but
you
that's,
know,
No, I think what we're just talking about is if someone like say filed a complaint and our process is just simply, okay, receive the complaint, put it in a certified mail with like the accompanying documentation, like, hey, a complaint has been filed against you. Everyone who's been through the complaint process knows this. And then there's a form that says, admit, deny, whatever. Like the process is take that complaint, put it in the mail, and then that's what the process is.
so we're gonna hand up Claire Santos.
Hey,
Claire?
thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commission. Stamps and postage aside, when I'm looking at the sanctions section and thinking of transparency and sunshine laws and all the different rules, is there a public announcement when someone is being sanctioned, or is that just left on the down low to be dealt with privately by the Commission and the board involved? Thank you.
Can you answer that? Patrick?
Apparently, I'm unclear as to what happened in the past, but the board, the commission is discussing how to handle announcements of complaints and their resolution. We haven't quite come up with a procedure, so that's why there's no public record currently of how complaints have been disposed of. That is something that we want to do. The amount of detail is in each, let's say announcement is sort of the concern right now, and we have not ironed that out. But yes, at some point, yes, there will be public knowledge of, or some public record of how the complaints were dealt with.
This is Kathleen. Claire, are you asking, how do people get notified? How does the public get notified? Is that what you're asking as well?
I'm not asking how, I'm asking if, in terms
If,
of.
I apologize,
writing
if.
up- Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
my knowledge, to
You know,
my
it can
knowledge,
be, it can be very damaging to an individual, and it's a sensitive topic, so I'm just wondering how that's dealt with.
I gotta be honest with you, when I was on the commission, it got put on the agenda and that was it. But again, 90% of the requests were between board members anyway.
Oh, yeah, if
So,
you iron it
yeah.
out and with a handshake, that's fine, but if someone is my question regarded sanctions, if someone is sanctioned, suspended, etc., is that made public knowledge? Is there a transparency factor here?
I think there is,
Just,
guys, because the commission would vote on it and that would become part of the public record, correct?
What's this number? Yeah, we could recess. It's up to you. Okay,
Yeah, just-
all right. Overhand.
Thank you,
Kevin?
Chair.
Thank you, Claire.
Chair,
Kevin?
thank you. Thank you. I want to address that particular point. That's not the reason for which my hand was raised, but I'm kind of surprised at this lack or loss rather of institutional knowledge. I mean, for years, there was, again, on the NCO website, a list of all of the findings of fact from every complaint process that was adjudicated by the Neighborhood Commission. And that, again, surprisingly disappeared with the recent revamp of the NCO website. However, if you go to the city website and do a search on the keyword phrase finding of fact or something to that equivalent, you can find still 2 exemplars of that from the Neighborhood Commission. I don't know where those results went, but they can serve as information for the current neighborhood commissioners to know what's been decided in the past, kind of like a case law. I've advocated many times for that to come back so it can be a corpus of knowledge that's known to current members of the boards and to the community. But I'll pause there. My hand will still be raised. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, I agree, Kevin, but I want to get back to the notification, the certified mail and such. So this is not legal advice. In HRS 91-9.5, and this will be for the record, there's a requirement, unless otherwise provided by law, that all public notices of hearings are by registered or certified mail. And that's why we said the hearings notices.
What HRS is it?
HRS 91-95.5. and that's entitled Notification of Hearings and Service. So I'm not saying that that's the only time that certified mail is required, but it's the only time that I'm aware of. And so I think that's why we, in the plan, in our proposal, it only required certified mail for the notice of hearings. And, at that time, as I recall, we would say, if that was incorrect, then the corporate counsel would probably, hopefully pick it up and tell us we're wrong and let us know how to correct it.
Thank you. Okay. So Tom, how much time do you need, do you think, to do your homework and try to integrate the NCO's recommendations into the 7-pager?
Into the 7-pager,
Yeah,
so there, well, you said,
yeah, because I thought you had said that you were going to take a look
yeah,
at the
no,
red
that's,
version.
that's two separate things. I don't know if, I won't guarantee having it by, Monday, because that's a different thing, and this is Monday, so your agenda for the neighborhood commission.
I was going to give you a lot more time.
Yeah, we're not,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Go ahead.
We're not planning to discuss this until the committee itself comes to a resolution. We're not going to bring it back to the commission, or that's the intent, unless there's something we're really stuck on.
Wait to the end of next week, put it that way, which is still less than 2 weeks, but I've got some library time and everything.
No, we still got another month for our next meeting.
Chair, I fully intend to do it myself too. So, I assume that they're probably going to be pretty similar, but we can get together. But yeah, I definitely will do it.
Okay, so you think you guys would have it done by next meeting, 30 days from now?
Yeah.
Okay, because we're planning on a recess in December, so I was willing to push it to January if you needed it. And we'll just fill it with another section of the neighborhood plan.
We.
I don't think,
whatever way we should-
Okay.
yeah, it won't be a problem.
Okay, so the way ahead right now, Tom and Patrick will get together and put together the another version that will combine these. And thank you for all the public with all your concerns. Kevin, you got one last thing? I see your hands up.
Chair, thank you. As this document, which you shared this afternoon, is on the agenda, and now that after all of the work, we can now look at this in a relatively clean format as it's being proposed for review. We can begin to see the interactions, the interrelations of the different sections. And when I saw your email this afternoon, I did kind of drop my schedule and review this. And whether or not you want to consider the questions that have come up, again, having seen this in this readable format today or in a future meeting, I'm not sure. I'll leave it to you, but there are a number of questions that you have evolved and have now surfaced. And I wonder what you think is the best way to go through, again, some of these, not all line by line, point by point, but there are some pretty key questions that demonstrate some inconsistencies, or at least potential inconsistencies, that could be bugbears when this goes to Corp Council, if that's the ultimate intent.
So can I ask you to go ahead and write down, those key things that you see? And then that gives us some time to go back and look at it before, and then we can bring that up the next meeting.
Certainly, I have a MS Word document edited from what you've done with some sidebar comments. If you think that can be circulated to the members of the committee before next time around, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd like for everybody to get a chance to see what your thoughts are. Again, we're looking at, collaboratively trying to improve this thing and make it its best. And we're looking at all options, so we appreciate those inputs. And I see that we got Michelle Matson. Michelle? Michelle, you there? Okay, we'll stand by. Jacob Wincheck, are you there?
I'm here. Apologies, my camera isn't working on my computer. I would just like to convey that I appreciate the thorough discussions being had about having our complaint process be revised in a fair and efficient manner. However, I would like to urge both the committee here and the commission at large that we've been dwelling on this for almost all of 2025 now. And there's a lot, there are other parts of the neighborhood plan that need attention too. I understand that previously the committee was going through a line by line item of the neighborhood plan for revisions. And I think, it's really imperative that we get back to that broader business of um, fine tuning and refining the neighborhood plan. So I encourage everyone on the committee to expeditiously work, get this across the finish line. I think, there's only so many, different avenues and questions we can take on this. I think it's been beaten to a pulp. And I think it's time that we home in on a resolution. I was hoping to get that resolution at this meeting, but I think the next committee meeting should be ideally the last time that we talk about this before sending it up the chain to be incorporated in the neighborhood plan. Thank you.
Okay, Jacob, I hear you loud and clear. I'm also interested in tackling some new subjects. Patrick did us a big favor. This was the toughest one to actually try to find a solution to, and I commend him and I commend the committee and the NCO for the work they've done. And I'll get to you in a second. We got one more, Michelle Manson, one more time.
Larry.
Yes.
Yes, I was just allowed to be unmuted. Thank you. And I tried to unmute, but it didn't work, and now it is. So thank you, NCO staff, for helping out on that.
We hear you loud and clear.
I just I'll try not to be that loud, but I want to be very clear. There are current circumstances which have recently evolved, and one is concerning today's discussion. I would like to, Chair Beret, Committee Chair Beret, I would like to have your permission to communicate with Kevin Lai as he reviews the comparatives, as well as Tom Heinrich, who I've known for years. Tom is extremely detail oriented, as is Kevin. But the new circumstances that have evolved, I would like to share with them so they can evaluate and proceed accordingly with their recommendations. Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle, I have no issue with you collaborating with any of the other participants. This has been great having the public involved. It's actually grown a bit. And if you notice, the email I sent out to our commissioners, I had the public on there that routinely provide really good input. They were on there for info, so make sure that you had the documents for tonight. But thank you. And Kathleen, circling back to you.
Thank you. Kevin, when you do your run through, I don't want another piece of paper. I'm sorry. I got inundated with 3 different pieces of paper tonight and trying to figure out what has changed. So thank you, Patrick, for your comparison chart. Is there any way you can use Patrick's comparison chart and then list on a 3rd column what your concerns are and address, so we can go right across and we can see exactly what you're talking about? Because I really can't deal with another piece of paper and trying to sit there and figure it out. Sorry, I'm just being honest, but thank you for offering to help. Appreciate that.
So my apology, Kathleen, because originally I did have a dual comparison chart, and we decided to go to the one single one to try to get through this quickly. Okay, and lastly,
Evelyn,
yeah, Evelyn, can you come up, talk up here, so that way the public wants to hear, we're collaborating in here as a group.
So just going back to the notification, I know the post office does offer tracking. So you can take your mail there, you pay, I think, about $7, and it tracks when it was delivered and timestamped. So that could be another form of verification other than certified and registered mail. That's all.
All right, thank you. Okay, NCO, any last minute?
Nope.
Okay, Tab? Commissioners, any last minute? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go ahead, Angie.
Sorry for, you were talking earlier about the parties and how there would be 3 people. Did I misunderstand that?
Yeah. Okay, so one of the options is called like a third party. It's, the third party is like the facilitator is the language that we use. And that could be the board chair. Obviously, if the board chair is involved in the complaint, you'd want someone separate. And it could be, you know, an NCO member, it could be a commissioner, or just someone who's, say, good at that type of thing. So that would be the third party. So you'd have the complainant and the respondent. And they would meet together and they would try to come to a resolution, just talking it out. And, you know, it could be, you know, the complaint could have a problem with their chair and just say, hey, I really don't like how you're doing this. And the chair says, okay, I'll try to be better. And if the complainant is satisfied with that, that will be the end of the complaint. If the complainant is not satisfied with that, then it would go to the full commission for a review. So that's the third party meeting aspect.
Okay, no, I was just confused if the party was only 3 people.
Uh,
Because that was when I was trying to figure out if it was the NCO or the commission's office, the chair and the complainant. I was trying to figure out who that third person was, if it was NCO or if it was commission.
Okay, well, the parties are the complainant and the respondent. And obviously, the respondent can be more than one person, but we're thinking of them as an entity. Does that make sense? Because it could be a one board member, or it could be the whole board if it's like a member of the public making a complaint. So if you think of it as entities, then you have the 2 parties, and then the third person or party would be the facilitator of that conference.
Which goes back to the question of the facilitator would be the commission.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It could be, so in certain instances, it could be the board chair. It could be a commissioner. It could be a representative of the NCO, just whoever, you know, whoever is designated to be the facilitator. That makes sense?
It does, it doesn't resolve my questions, but I think that if I keep asking my questions and try to change how I say it, I will still get the same answer, so.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I'm trying to answer.
All right, so get it move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so our announcements, next week, the Neighborhood Commission will have a meeting on Monday, October 27th. This will be via WebEx and also in person here in conference room 153. Next committee meeting for the neighborhood plan will be on November 17th at 6 o'clock right here. And then the Charter Commission provided testimony today to the City Council, talking about their plan, and meetings and everything. I did notice there are at least 13 neighborhood boards that submitted inputs to the Charter Commission. So other than that, no other items. I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. Great comments, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Larry. Thank you.